ESP, or in other words, English for specific purposes. To kick things off, I would like to talk about what is ESP, characteristics, steps to implement, advantages and disadvantages, finally, teacher's role and student's role. English for a specific purpose. Well, first of all, this it has an object, and a specific object, and it emerged in 1960. And why it emerged in this year? Because in that year and at that moment, the world was acquiring this language for science, technology, education. So, as I said, the people need a specific uh, part of the language, yeah, because that's the reason why these have a specific purpose and a specific object that needed. That, for example, if you were a doctor, engineer, lawyer, or teacher, you have to learn that part of the language according to your own necessities. So, John Moonby, it could collaborate with in this English for a specific purpose, and he's the author of the needs analyze model. And Tony W. Evans helped to establish the theoretical and practical foundation of ESP. So, I would like to talk a little bit about characteristics, and we can say that there is an approach on English teaching. So, what I mean, as I said, uh, if you are a doctor, an engineer, or a lawyer, you have to learn that vocabulary of your specialize that you or your area that you will working on. So you as a teacher, talking that you are a teacher, that maybe can be difficult because you have or you should have that vocabulary and that a specific area that you are teaching for the student. So that's the but well this have an advantage because you have your specific purpose, you have your specific object, and just as teachers you can have your specific goal for your student, and maybe can be meaningful for your student, but because your student can take that you that you were teaching in class, your student can take it to put it in practice in their real life because that it is its area, right? So that means that needs orientation because you're a teacher, you need to detect what is the specific uh, necessity of your student, why he or she needs to learn English. And as you can detect, and you have already that part that you why your student needs to learn English, you already can say what is the part or of the vocabulary, what is the part of the English, what is the part of the skills of language that you need to teach to your student. So on the other hand, you have to contextualize the content that you will teach. So where that takes into account the vocabulary, the the grammar rules, the activities that are in your students area, right? So on the other hand, we have that it is well, it has an object, it has a direct goal in the learning part. So this means that, for example, I would like to talk about a doctor. A doctor needs a specific goal. if a doctor that does not uh, about English, and he knows nothing about English, you have to establish with together with your students to have a clear object. So, as I said, I would like to start about to talk about uh, that needs analyze. You have to analyze why. So here I wrote why your student need to learn English. Why? What is the reason? When you already know what is the reason that your student wants to learn English, you already will know what is the part that you will teach. Then what is in the next question, that is what skills they need to improve or they require according to their purposes. Yeah, because for example, if we are, I would like to talk about to keep talking about the doctor, and the doctor needs all the abilities, right? Because a doctor needs to give a recommendation, needs to know how to say pill, how to uh, say patient. So uh, the doctor needs a really big vocabulary. That is a disadvantage that you are as a teacher, because you need to study a lot to have that area of the doctor. Well, so I mean, you don't have to be a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer. You just have to know the part, or the part of the vocabulary, and of course the grammar rules, and you have to know how to implement activities in as much as it can be in a real life that can be useful for your student. So that in uh, well, I would like to talk about the course design. As I said, uh, you have to create a plan with topics, tasks, and materials that are related to the specific field. So you have to create, but we're talking here that you have that you already have the object, the specific purpose. That now that you already have, you have to think about what topics are involved in that area, and what will going to be the tasks that you are going to implement in your classes for your students to reach that goal that you already have. So this is going to take on the other hand the materials that includes manuals, articles, graphic relevance to the area for your student, that can be really useful for your student. So because that is the purpose, to improve their English, but in their own area. We're not talking about that you will learn English in general. You are just teaching English in a specific part of the language with a specific object for your student, taking into account their own necessities. Finally, I would like to say that all of these things should be assessed, right? So you have to evaluate your student and even the course, because if the objects or the specific purpose is not reaching, or you are not about to reach, uh, I can say that the course is not being useful for your student. So that that comes to advantages. So in this part, I would like to talk about the relevance. So ESP can make focus on specific needs. So making, well, maybe this can be making learning more meaningful and directly for your student, for their own area. Uh, when we talk about, for example, I talk a lot about the doctor, but it can be for even at academic goals or for whatever personal goals that your student have, right? And taking this into account, I would like to talk about motivation. That there is well, is other advantage of this because if your students are learning in their own interest, in their own things that they want to learn, this can be useful for them and they make feel comfortable and they can feel motivated because they are feeling that this English are being useful for them. Because if you as a teacher make meaningful activities, activities that it can be uh, like uh, a real life, they can learning in a class and to put it in practice in a real life in their own interest, in their own area. So uh, that is why another part that is efficient because this it can be uh, easy if we can say that word. It can be easy for you because you are concentrating on the most relevant vocabulary, right? You are not teaching uh, the language in a general way. You are teaching the language in using a little bit part that there is in their own area. So that means that you are teaching the skills that the students need or require to improve. So on the other hand, maybe we can say that there is a practical application because, as I said, the students can take that they learned to put it in a real situation in the real world, and that can makes them your students feel comfortable because the vocabulary that they learned, or well, the English that they learned is useful for them. On the other hand, the adaptability. This can be because, as I said, the activities, the materials, there are specific materials, specific activities for your goal, for your object. This can be easy, but just if you have or the English and you are able to teach it. So on the other hand, I would like to talk about disadvantages. Yes, disadvantages. So here we can say that there is a high preparation demand, a higher preparation. And why? Because the teachers need to invest in that area, and the teachers should have to effort as much as they can and to study so much. Why? Well, because they have to design the course. They are the responsible to design the course. And it's a course according to the necessities and according to the object and according to your student. So, on the other hand, we have the resource dependency that ESP requires specialized teachers and resources. So, if you are not specialized in this approach, it can be really difficult. So, uh, in the material development, it can be difficult because it should be in a high quality. In a high quality because uh, your students are learning in a specific thing. For example, a doctor needs a specific material. It cannot be any material, and not just a doctor, an engineer, a lawyer. They need a specific material for them. And we're not just talking about a book or talking about a flashcards. They really need a specific material for them to be really useful. So I would like to talk about a little bit teacher's role. Well, teacher's role needs an analyst, right? So uh, the teacher should identify the student's specific language needs through maybe can be through interviews, through surveys, or a quiz or like an exam. The teacher should take all of those things to analyze them. And why? Because the teacher should take all of this information because the teacher is the designer of this course. So that means that that the teacher, of course, should design the activities, should design the material, should design the assessment, should design everything. So that maybe can be difficult. Yes, it is difficult, but this is the role of the teacher. And of course, the teacher is the facilitator to apply the language skills um, in a yeah in a realistic task. Uh, so and of course, teacher is the evaluator. Uh, Teacher assesses students' progress uh, through evaluations. Maybe can be a role plays or task. Uh, or well, if we are talking that you have more than one student, right? So that means that students role, the students role, uh, the students role have to be an active participant, and the student have to engage with context specific materials and activities. So that is the reason why that you as a teacher you have to be careful when you are designing your course, right? So and on the other hand, it is an independent learner. Yes, it's an independent learner because the student is taking the responsibility to identify what are the areas to improve and to practice outside of the classroom. Because if it's their own area, for example, the doctor, the student is the students have the responsibility to practice every single day as much as he or she can to improve their English outside the classroom, right? So and even the student can use additional resources. Uh, Maybe can be online tools or trying to be in a context that involves the language. But you as a teacher, you have to take that things to make materials to help your student that out of the classroom that the student can learn that part. So and even the student is a collaborator because the student work with peers on problem solving task. Maybe it can be, for example, we're talking the activities, right? So it can be role plays or group projects in the most relevant part of their area, right? And for example, finally, I would like to say that the student should to to complete a specific goal uh, in their own area. So I want to say that the vocabulary, the language should be technical in their own area. Well, I mean that the English that they will going to learn should be uh, really select for you as teacher to put it in a task and you it can this can be useful for your student. So in a nutshell, I would like to say that all of these things are important, are really important. But it is, I think that it is really difficult to implement this approach as a teacher. But I think that you as a teacher, you need to, well, you have to learn a lot of English, and the student, because there are a lot of students, and the students are in a lot of areas, and you have to know all of those areas. So that's in a nutshell, that's that I want to say that this is. Uh, and you as a teacher, you have to create a course, to design the course, to put, well, to clear that object that your student needs, the necessities that your student have, that your student has, right? So that is English for a specific purpose.